Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne with you here on this Friday, man, going into the week 6, and a lot of big games around the country this weekend here in the SEC, a bunch of them. Texas A&M walking the Green Mile to Tuscaloosa. This ought to be a fun one. A&M, I don't know who's going to play quarterback. I guess it'll be Haynes King. Max Johnson broke his hand this week, but Frank Duffy's on with us in New Orleans right now. Jimmy Hodge up in Knoxville. Rob Browne broadcasting live here from Wynne, Arkansas. Red River Ford Toyota, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pulled in this morning early. Got a brand new Bronco out there. They don't last long. Already purchased before the show started by a couple from over in Batesville, Arkansas, White River country. But we'll be with you for the next 2 hours. We are every Monday through Saturday. 6 days a week. We talk college football, basketball, baseball, recruiting. We're a sports radio show and podcast. That's what we do. That's who we are. We stay out of the gutter. And we're not PC. We tell it like it is. A lot of stuff happening in college football. Second segment, Mark Hamm will check in from Knoxville to talk with Frank about tomorrow's 11 a.m., 12 Eastern SEC matchup, Tennessee at LSU. That's going to be a fun one. And the top of the second hour, Coach Jackie Sherrill will weigh in from out in Texas on what's going on in college football. Man has a lot of insight. He's seen a lot, and he has no problem telling it unfiltered, which is why we love having him on Sidelines. Give us a follow on Twitter at Sidelines_live. And remember, subscribe to our Patreon page to support Sidelines. We're growing this show, making it happen. And thank you, Nigel, our webmaster, for fixing the issues that have plagued us here recently. We got it all ready to go. So let's get started now. Matt Dean over in Memphis, the coach, the administrator, long timer, a man from Iowa who has common sense, practical game day awareness. I want to talk with you, Matt, and we're going to get it started with you. Your thoughts as we reach this weekend is weekend number 6 of the college football season. What have your takeaways been so far? SEC, Big Ten, just the big picture.
I think everyone talks about, the volatility in terms of some of the coaching changes in this year, as happening every year. But the thing that's really interesting to me is after 5 weeks, trends are starting to happen. And what I mean by that is, there were some folks that were concerned about the score of the Georgia-Missouri game. Hey, when you're 5 weeks into the season, you have coaching staffs working nonstop. You're going to get tape on people. Things are going to come closer to the middle. Georgia didn't play well. It was a night game. Missouri played well. Georgia came back and won the football game. That's really all that matters to me. I still think Georgia's the best team in the country. Now, are they a little banged up? Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of teams are banged up after 5 weeks, I also am a little surprised that some teams in the West Coast, I follow a little bit more than I ever have before because of certain connections I have out there. But there's some good football being played in the Pac-12. I'm really impressed with Ohio State. Michigan went into the Kinnick Stadium, my home state, and took care of business. But I don't think Michigan is quite as good as they were last year after watching them win a close game against Maryland and score, beat Iowa 27-14. It was not overly impressive to me.
Alabama, I'm not getting any audio.
Alabama this weekend, I expect them to roll. A&M's got a ton of injuries. They're banged up. Another quarterback situation there. Max Johnson, they said there's a broken bone in his hand, so he's out for a long period of time. But I'll tell you, I'm really curious about the second half of the season, and the game that intrigues me the most this week is LSU Tennessee. I'm really curious. I'm looking forward to watching that ball game.
Well, and I look at LSU Tennessee. Okay, getting a little echo.
Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you? I hear you. And I'm thinking about this LSU Tennessee game. and it's 11 o'clock. It typically favors the visiting team in that time slot because you can take the home crowd out of it real fast by jumping on top 14-0. Tennessee's offense is built like that. LSU, golly, they're miracle workers. I think I could have bet Frank a 2 steamer packs of Crystals with cheese or without, that there's no way LSU wins with like 100 yards total passing on the road at night at Jordan-Hare. So but that series, Auburn LSU, Frank, wouldn't you agree? It's Ripley's Believe It or Not. That's the script, isn't it? Yeah, Frank, you there? Okay. But Matt, I'm going to tell you that's the problem that we have with you're right. Here it is, week 6. Everybody has tape. They've seen a lot, and they've got a good idea of what you can bring to the table. I'm thinking that Tennessee is going to be able to come in there and just win by outscoring LSU. I know it's a home game, 11 a.m. That's not when LSU likes to play. They love the night games, the later games when it's dark there. But I'm picking Tennessee, and that's my thoughts.
I will tell you, when Auburn was up 17-0 last week, I was really impressed that LSU found a way to win a road SEC football game in a tough venue. So I do think that Tennessee has the offensive firepower. It would not shock me. LSU's defense is getting more and more confidence. If they can stay away from the turnover bug and keep this a one-possession game, I kind of like LSU in a close one. I really do.
Testing 1 2 test 1 2 test.
Yeah, Frank, I hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I hear you, Frank. But Matt, keep going.
No, quickly. I know Frank's with us.
We were just having some technical.
Right. No, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm fascinated by it, but the Brian Kelly effect is starting to show. I think he's a terrific football coach. They're finding a way to win close games. They were down early against Mississippi State. They came back convincingly and won. They were down big against Auburn. They came back and won. I think they're going to win this weekend. I really do.
Yeah, I do too.
Because they're their venue. I think the game's, if it's a home, if it's in Tennessee, I go right.
Yeah, I'm picking Tennessee in this one. I just don't think LSU is built to get into an offensive track. And let's see. Okay, I think Tennessee is built to be. They're not going to shut people down, but LSU's offense, what I've seen out of Jaden Daniels, they're not going to get into a high-scoring, track meet with anybody. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. And so, but again, Brian Kelly, I think he's an excellent coach. There's no question in my mind. Let me jump in here. Okay. Well, anyway, bottom line, this game, and I'm sitting there thinking, Matt, I don't know what's going on in the world of technology. Losing everybody. I mean, but
you got me.
Yeah, no. I'm glad we do. I'm glad we do.
Share song. You got me.
No. But what I'm saying is that looking at the big picture that is the SEC right now, it's everybody's chasing Alabama and Georgia, and I look at all this that is happening, and when's it going to change? I mean, right now, Alabama goes up on the road, wins 49-26 at Arkansas, but they get their quarterback banged up. We don't know how bad the injury is to Bryce Young. We're going to find out tomorrow. And look at A&M, though. Max Johnson apparently has broken his hand. I don't know if he's going to play. I don't know what to believe that comes out of college coaches' mouths. I mean, they may be saying guys hurt. You know how that is. And look, on game day, he's there. You don't want to buy into all of that. But A&M right now, let's talk about that. And I know your son was on the staff there for 4 years. He's not anymore. And I'm just thinking, wow, Jimbo, you're going up to Tuscaloosa, and you got drilled 42-24 at Mississippi State. How are they going to pull this one off?
Well, I'll just tell you this. From watching that game last week, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, turnovers, block kicks. And I'm just telling you, one of the things the last 2 years they've played Mississippi State, their defensive coordinators have kind of just rushed 3 and dropped 8. And Mike Leach has come out and said, keep doing that. We've got it figured out. We're okay with that. And I think, for Texas A&M this weekend, they have to find a way to move the chains and not turn the ball over. Haynes King will probably get the start, who was the starter at the beginning of the year before Max Johnson replaced him. It wouldn't shock me if Connor Wegman, the 5-star out of Texas, is not far behind to lead that football team. He was part of that dynamic football recruiting class they had this past year. And I love Haynes. I've met him a few times. I'm pulling for the kid. Really tough environment. And, it's been quiet in Tuscaloosa, even though this summer there was a lot of things said between the two programs. I think Alabama has had this game circled for a while. Now, the caveat for me is if Bryce Young doesn't play, will Alabama use their running game to kind of move the chains and just grind it out and beat them that way? But I'm just intrigued by this matchup because of what happened this summer and some of the words that were said between coaches, and also both teams having an issue at quarterback this week going into this game.
Yeah, Frank. Hey, Frank, you're down in New Orleans. You'll be in Baton Rouge for that game. But we're talking about what's going on with Texas A&M. Are the wheels just falling off that bus? I didn't buy into the A&M hype in the preseason. Nothing against A&M. I just thought Arkansas was the second best team, but I'm glad I didn't. A&M just seems like they're in free fall.
Yeah, I never bought into A&M. We've beaten them every time except for 2 since they've come into the conference. So I never bought into it. But I will tell you, I never would have thought coming into this season, especially with all the hype for A&M and they're the best recruiting class that money can buy, that we would be talking about Jimbo being on the hot seat. But let me tell you, after the beatdown the Tide is going to throw on them this week at 3-3, the Sharks are starting to circle. And like I sent you that little thing, that thing from the Paul Feinbaum show. Yeah, that was tongue in cheek. That the guy said, a hitman would be less expensive than a buyout. But honestly, with all comedy, as black comedy as that was, with all black comedy, there's a kernel of truth behind it. And I have also heard from friends that are pretty high up in Texas A&M that the big money donors are already, starting to talk about what it would take to pay that $83 million off. And from what I understand from my buddy who's in pretty big, that's a drop in the oil bucket for what they would have to do. And I am just shocked that we're talking about that this early. But make no mistake about it, Nick Saban, if he can, is going to embarrass Jimbo Fisher on Saturday.
Well, I can tell you what it's going to take. $83 million. And I would love to have people. Could you imagine having people that just pissed money away that freely? I mean, my goodness, what a bunch of buffoons. You're going to throw away $83 million. I mean, Matt Dean, wouldn't you just love to be a fundraising guy and deal with people like that? I mean, come on, man. You're from Iowa. You got more common sense than all those clowns.
I could do I could build a pretty good franchise with $83 million. But let me tell you this. Frank hit it on the head. I never would have guessed 2 years ago. I was at the Orange Bowl when they beat North Carolina by 2 touchdowns, and they finished the season 4th in the nation AP.
Yeah.
And we're a bubble team to the college football playoff. Their only loss that year was on the road to Alabama, and that Alabama was really good, obviously, and Kellen Mond had a bad day. But the last 2 seasons, we hear all this hype recruiting. Like if they're 4-1 going in this game, or even 5-0, this is the marquee matchup. But they're going to get thumped this weekend. They're going to be 3-3, and like Frank said, it's going to be talked about the rest of the season. And it's really unfortunate because my son, who was on that staff, he told me,
Yeah.
Dad, when he left, he goes, listen, 2 years from now, when these kids grow up a little bit, we're going to be a lot better. Next year, there's going to be hype, but we don't think we're going to be as good. But that's not the way they sold it. That's not the way they marketed it. And they're paying the price right now.
Right.
Well, yeah. And Frank and anybody that follows football, Matt, anybody listening, watching, if you're counting on true freshmen to play key roles in your team, you're just setting yourself up for a lot of problems. I don't care how talented
especially
these guys
in the
are.
SEC.
Yeah, Frank, and that's exactly right. In this league, this is an unforgiving collision league, the Southeastern Conference. There's no mercy. You remember in Braveheart, does the condemned have anything to say? Mercy.
Hey, like the Braves, like the Braves could tell the Mets, you want to come at the King, you better not miss. That's what Nick Saban is basically saying to Jimbo Fisher. You came at the King, and guess what? You're coming in with a 2-3 team that's about to be 3-3, and you guys have issues, and there's no going away. If you call the shot like Jimbo was calling this offseason about how good they were going to be, you better walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk. And Texas A&M has not walked the walk since they got into this conference.
Well, and I'll take it a step further, Rob and Frank.
Yeah.
A&M had 7 or 8 guys go to the league last year. So the fact that he was talking that way in the summer is not responsible from a coaching standpoint. You knew you were going to lose a lot of quality guys, and you just it was very bad look.
All right, look,
hold your thoughts.
Yeah, hold your thoughts because we're going to have to take a quick break for commercial break. We'll be back with more. We're going right back to Frank in NOLA. Okay.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne here on this Friday with Matt Dean in Memphis, Frank Duffy down in New Orleans, talking SEC college football, big weekend. A lot of big games around, but let's get back down to the French Quarter where Frank is walking around and has a lot to say.
Well, it's an exciting time right now for LSU football. We got a lot of things to clean up on offense. You can't throw 5 yards of passing in a second half of an SEC game. We were lucky to get out of Jordan-Hare with our lives. But I will tell you what we are doing. We're playing good defense. And you have to play good defense in this league to win. I think Tennessee is going to come in. They are a fantastic ball club right now. I think their offense is actually moving it as well as anybody in our conference. So we're going to have our hands full to try and match them point for point. But I'm telling you this, people are excited down here. We bought into Kelly when he first got here, despite the Southern accent attempt. We were good with that. We've given him a hall pass. Honestly, without a late start and a screw up on an extra point in New Orleans, we'd be coming in undefeated. So I am really, this year, it's kind of, we're playing with house money. What happens. I think we're ahead of where we thought we would be coming into this game. But I will tell you, it's going to be an early start. The Bloodies will be pour it at 8 o'clock on. We'll have to get the Tiger fans up and going. It hurt us not having them at night. But I will tell you, the Tigers have a shot in this game. If they can move the ball, establish the run game like we did against Auburn, but yet get enough passing to where you can keep those defenders honest and keep that secondary back off the line of scrimmage, we got a shot. You know, Jaden Daniels had a players-only meeting with the receiving corps, which, by the way, was hailed as our strongest unit coming in. And I think you could try and find a few of them. The only place you find them is on a milk carton. They've been missing in action, especially our All-American Keyshawn Butte. But from what I understand on that players-only meeting this week up at the McClendon facility, it got a lot of attention. And I think Brian Kelly's comments that he is going to be okay with Jaden taking more risk will come to play.
Yeah, and along the line of what you just said, you have a players-only meeting. You mentioned Keyshawn Butte. This guy came out after the Florida State game, the loss, and I'm just going to be honest, which I always am. I wouldn't want him around me. Okay, I don't like his atmosphere. Well, Frank, hope Frank's okay. You get mugged. Holy cow. But anyway, Matt, Keyshawn Butte removes all things LSU from his Twitter and all. You know, all this drama, these little drama queens, they're no good for the rest of the team. You go with the guys. Look, we got guys that are putting out on social media, yeah, I'm going to, kind of shut her down for the year. Well, you know what I do? If I'm the athletic director or the fundraising arm, of LSU or whatever school it is, son, you're done. I'll pack your bags. You're off scholarship. No more. You got to nip this stuff in the bud. Bonnie Fife, he was right. Nip it in the bud. Because that hurts the rest of your team. If one guy who's a really talented athlete is treated differently, the chain of command is broken. And I think LSU, hey, they're 4-1 with Keyshawn Butte contributing next to nothing this year, Matt.
Yeah, but I'll take it. I'm going to go back to Frank's reference on Brian Kelly and why I think it was such a great hire. Brian Kelly has obviously handled this situation since that first game. I mean, it may not show statistically, but the defense is outstanding.
Yeah.
They made big-time plays last week in the winning game when they were down 17-0 on the road. A thing that I lived in my coaching career by is good defense neutralizes good offense, and that's what I think is going to happen on Saturday. I think this high-octane Tennessee offense, which is elite, let's not forget that. I just think in that atmosphere, they're going to have to be really good to beat LSU. I like LSU in a close game. I know this players-only meeting occurred. Hopefully that helps because that's probably leadership taking place in the locker room. You want an extension of your coaching staff through your quarterback.
Yeah.
And, I think as long as it doesn't become a shootout, which obviously it could, if this stays a 21-17, 28-24 game, I like LSU. I was in the stands last year, Frank, as an A&M fan when Max Johnson drove down 85 yards.
Yeah.
They had no business beating A&M last year in that football game, and they found a way. It's just magic down in the valley. I mean, I don't know. Herndon's been outstanding. I just like the LSU defense a little bit more. And I like Brian Kelly factor. He's a great coach. He wins close games. If they play Florida State a week later, they win that football game by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I agree.
And look, you can't argue, and this is where people are missing the boat on Kelly. He's 4 games behind Nick Saban from being the winningest coach, active coach in all of college football. He's won everywhere he's been. And I'm just saying, whether it's Keyshawn Butte or any player on any team, if I'm the coach, let me tell you something. You ain't any more important than anybody else on this team, okay? And if you allow individuals with their little temper tantrums to get away with those kinds of actions, that's on you as a head coach. That is your fault, and it will destroy your program. I'll go back to Florida State. Jameis Winston, the way he acted, there was all kinds of stuff going on when he was at Florida State, and it's just followed him everywhere. And Jimbo Fisher, in my opinion, I think they looked the other way when he was at Florida State. And look what it did to the program. That kind of stuff, it matters, okay? I promise you it matters. It's just like, Frank, how mad were you at Odell Beckham Jr. for passing out cash on the sidelines? Who do these guys think they are?
Could have vacated the greatest college football season of all time on a stupid act on the dais, when they're getting their awards and the confetti's still dropping. I thought it was one of the dumbest, most narcissistic moves I've ever seen anybody around our program do. And look, I don't know if the statute of limitations run out on that one. That you know what the NCAA, something could come out of the woodwork, 5 years, 6 years later. Hell, at least the IRS tells you only got to keep your files for 7 years. With the NCAA, I don't think there is a statute of limitations, right? So yeah, dumb move. Look, but again, that's what you get with a lot of wide receiver prima donna divas. But I will say, in Keyshawn's defense, from what I understand, he's reversed, and so even though he's not playing well and he's not getting open, from what I understand, the attitude has been totally different than what it was after that first game. I don't know what was going on. When you become a dad, you kind of mature. You have to mature. He and his girlfriend had a baby about 2 weeks ago. So I'm hoping that maturity's come in for his sake. By the way, you lose money when you're an NFL prospect when you do things like this.
Yes.
You don't have to wait for a Wonderlic to see what kind of guy you're getting. And let me tell you, there's a lot of foxhole guys in that LSU locker room. And I will tell you, I think Brian Kelly has a hole in that locker room. I think much better than Ed Ogeron did. So I think, again, the adult is in the room. You see how they're playing. It's been a light year difference from the first game. And if they can get some offense, and I agree to Matt's point, I think this game will be won in the low 20s if LSU wins it. If it goes above 25, it's going to be a Tennessee ball game. But if LSU can keep it low and keep it a defensive score and you get a little magic, again, we got to go a lot of overtimes to get it into a night game. We'll do our best. But, yeah, you're right. If LSU can get that magic, and by the way, Matt, I was in the Tiger Stadium for that Texas A&M game, and it was funny. I wound up getting tickets in the Texas A&M section. And let me tell you, the grumblings about Jimbo Fisher were loud and clear that night as well amongst section, 44 that I was sitting in right near the A&M fans.
Yeah. Jimmy, if you're on with us, jump into this conversation because, it is interesting. That guy that called in on Feinbaum, talking about a hitman. That's Harvey Updike creepy,
No kidding.
Harvey Updike, when he died, I think had to have 6 trustees from the county jail take him to his grave and dump him in the ground. I'm telling you, what a scumbag.
He's going to get broomstick like Dahmer.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going back to this Keyshawn Boutte. I have zero tolerance for malcontent, cancerous type players. I don't care. I would not, if a guy starts acting in a way that's not good for the team, Matt, I'm going back to you, the man from Iowa, the practical Midwesterner, 31 years at Rhodes College, one of the most beautiful inner city college campuses in America, home of great folks, Dr. Doggerel, Lloyd Templeton, great Americans. You tell me, would they put up with crap like that in Des Moines, Iowa? Des Moines?
Unfortunately for my Hawkeyes, we won't get talent receivers like Keyshawn to come to University of Iowa, so we wouldn't have to deal with it. But I'm just telling you, Brian Kelly has dealt with this. This has not got too public. I think the locker room he's in complete control of, and I think even the players-only meeting, you never know, came through Brian to the quarterback to talk to this.
That code red was ordered.
It was. Now, what's interesting about any sport is if LSU last week, let's say that 17-0 lead turns into like a 24-10 loss, things may be a little different. But when you come back the way they did, it just gives you more cred. And I could be overstating things, but I just think LSU is getting better every day. And that's what we try to do in the coaching world. Brian Kelly knows that. He is, like Frank said, playing with house money. This would be a huge one to get on Saturday. I agree with Frank completely. If this game gets in the 30s, Tennessee's going to win the football game. But if they can keep it in the low 20s, I think LSU has a legitimate shot.
Yeah, and look, I want Keyshawn Boutte more than anything to be a great father to his child. That's the most important thing in the world. I'm just saying, I didn't like people that wore white cleats and white socks when I played sports as a kid. Okay, I am very strong opinions. I'll just say that. As Frank is over there, what are you eating?
Well, I didn't like Billy White shoes, Josh, just because I was a Saints fan.
But hey, look, you want to make this thing wild? Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Let's go to Knoxville. Mark Hamm. Mark, jump in here. We got Matt Dean in Memphis over at Rhodes, 31 years in coaching, and 16 of them in coaching women's basketball and then athletic administration. Frank Duffy, Duffy Realty up in Atlanta, 20 years, over 45,000 homes sold, and it ain't by accident. It's hard work. Hard work works. Don't ever forget that. And Mark Hamm, you're up in Knoxville. Jimmy Hodge hopefully can join in with us. He's having some trouble with his cricket phone or whatever it is. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to tell you something, Mark. We're talking about this Tennessee LSU matchup. Talked a little bit about the A&M and Alabama. I think Jimbo and the Aggies are walking the green mile. I'll be curious to see what their last meal request is tonight. 20 pieces of fried chicken and a 2-gallon tub of ice cream.
They go for the etouffee. I've been around them all last yesterday. Not only have I seen all the good food they're eating, I've heard Rocky Top 32 times already, just in the bars alone.
Yeah, Mark. Here's the question. It's a road game for the Vols. I've asked this question to Bob Kessling, the voice of the Tennessee Vols. I've asked it to Jimmy Himes. I've asked it to everybody I know. How does Smokey the Hound, the venerable blue tick hound, how does he get to road games? Are you taking him?
Actually, he has a private jet that's just for him. Yeah, call sign is Smokey 98 for the national championship.
There we go. Here we go. Mark, weigh in with this panel of Einsteins. We have Albert here, we have Freud here, and we have Plato right there. But
more fraud than Freud.
Yeah.
but weigh in about this Tennessee LSU game.
Hey, I think we're just kind of like the SEC shorts. If you've seen those videos where we come strolling in like, hey, we're back. It took us 20 years, but we're back. Yeah. Look, I'm just happy to be in the conversation again after being in the desert for 20 years. It feels like the 90s again. But again, look, we're on the road at a great team, and it's the SEC. I think it's going to help us. It's an 11 a.m. game. It's not a night game, but I don't know. I'm not all that optimistic. I think we can put up some points. Our defense is very suspect. So, I don't know. I'm not going in like a lot of the Vol fans saying it's going to be a win, because you can lose any game at any time, and LSU has got a great team, and on the road down there, you just never know. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game personally. So who knows?
Tennessee is built to get into a track meet. Defense travels. We know that. On a scale of 1 to 5, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, Mark Hamm, the handler of the venerable blue tick hound Smokey, largest tailgate up on the hill. Tell me this, on a 1 to 5, 1 being no way, 5 being absolute domination, where do you rank this Tennessee defense if they get into a track meet? What you see every week is they just do enough.
Yeah, they do enough. I think it's one of those things, we put up enough points that the defense can kind of stand there. Look, my son, works for the UT athletic department. He sent me something this week. We're the number 1 team in the country on total offense, but we're 95 in defense. So that's not going to probably win you a national championship by any means. And you're going to get caught one of these days, because, the offense is not going to click every game. And fortunately for us, it has. But we find a team in a matchup that has a good defense, and Hooker has an off game, and and our defense can't stop anybody. I'm not trying to talk negative about the Vols, but again, just the stats. I'm more of a stats guy. Number one in offense is great, but people question have we played anybody. I think we can put up points, but you got to have a strong defense. I mean, you do. And right now, I just don't know that we have enough defense to go on the road and beat really, really good SEC teams. I guess we'll find out a lot this week, though.
And I agree with you. The marquee matchup is y'all's offense against our defense, which is playing as well as I've seen us play in about 5 or 6 years on defense. But I think the game is going to be won on the other side of the ball and what our offense can do against your defense. If we can run the ball, but more importantly, if we can stretch out that ball secondary a little bit to try and get
hold us off. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on Sidelines. 1 minute.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with you on this Friday, college football weekend number 6 eve. Frank Duffy down in the French Quarter in New Orleans. He's on his 17th beignet. You're going to explode, Frank, I might add. I hope you've got some Irish coffee going there with the flame. And we get Matt Dean in his office over there, Rhodes College in Memphis. Mark Hamm, Rocky Top, Tennessee Tailgate Report. Everybody out there listening, thank you, as Gomer says. Of course, that's a salute to the great town of Sylacauga, Alabama, the marble capital of the world. X 96.3 Radio Alabama, Lake Martin. By the way, we were down at Lake Martin last weekend. Frank was with us. Matt, Mark,
time.
If you hadn't been down to Lake Martin, I suggest they're about to have their 100th anniversary down there. Not only is it beautiful, 750 miles of coastline, God, that's a clean lake. We went to Chuck's Marina. I mean, you might as well be down on the Gulf Coast on 38. I mean, everybody coming in on their boats and sea-doos and paddle boards and whatnot. They even got them French fried potatoes in there.
And that tenderloin that Doug did on that big green egg was incredible.
Oh, that thing was Martaviously, fabulously. Yeah. Okay, look, let's bounce this one around here right now. Mark's making some great points, and his son, Will, very smart young man. I've talked to him, know him. He's very smart. Got the number 1 offense in the country, 95th defense. Frank, LSU's defense by LSU standards in 2019 was woeful, but the offense was, maybe the greatest I've ever seen. Very
similar.
Yeah. So what about Tennessee? I mean, we're seeing things now. Look, no one ever thought we'd see NIL. No one ever thought we'd see the transfer portal, that what I call the nation's largest wineatorium. But anyway, I digress. Tennessee, with that offense that they have, and Hendon Hooker, even without Cedric Tillman, is a powerful, powerful team.
There are a lot of similarities, and you're right. LSU's defense was not really good that year. They were opportunistic, though. And they had their times. They were able to get turnovers, and they were able to get big stops, the old bend but not break. That Ole Miss game, after beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa, which, by the way, was when I realized we were probably going to win the national championship when we went into Tuscaloosa, got that albatross from around our neck, the monkey off our back, from that national championship game, about 2 miles walk that way, where we never passed the 50, which, by the way, don't get me started. It should have been Oklahoma State in that game, but I digress. But no, the ability for LSU's offense in that Ole Miss game, though we just got run through. Ole Miss hung up a lot of points. That was kind of the wake-up moment for the LSU defense. And at some point in time, I think Tennessee's going to have that wake-up moment with their defense. But you have to make sure it's not done in a loss if you want to have the type of run that I know they want. And let me tell you something. I live in Atlanta. I mean, I just have the apartment here, my hometown here in New Orleans. But I live in Atlanta. And the University of Georgia fans are nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers with the Tennessee game looming. If Tennessee doesn't stub their toe, again, and they're able to make it through that close game like we had with Auburn in our national championship year in Tiger Stadium. If Tennessee can make it through there and get that defense playing better, they have a legitimate shot with the offense that they've got. They have a very powerful offense.
Yeah, Mark, hard to argue about that, but he's right about that 2019 LSU defense by LSU standards, okay, and they have high standards on defense. They were opportunistic. What is it about Tennessee's defense that that makes you think they go on the road and create a couple of 2 or 3 turnovers that put Tennessee in better position? I don't think anybody will forget what Tennessee did last year on the road, November 6th, in the night up in Kentucky, Lexington, KY, 48-45. Total time of possession, 14 minutes and 47 seconds.
Right. You know, my son sent me something as well this week. I was trying to find it. It was something about taking
him on the show, by the way.
I need to get him on the show. Yeah. There was something about the number of here he is. 8 forced turnovers lead the SEC for the Vols defense, and he sent that to me. So I think one of the things that is difficult for our defense is they're on the field so much. I mean, we score
so quickly.
Yeah, and we can go down the field and score in no time, and then they're back on the field. They get gassed out there. So I think it's just one of those things where I think they're a pretty good defense at times, but when you get gassed out there, even if you've got second string people coming in, it's tough. It's tough. But I think,
and by the way, that's what you call a first world problem.
Yes, that's exactly right. And we don't punt the ball. We don't punt the ball that often either. So, when I look at 8 forced turnovers, and he sent that to me, I'm looking at it here. I was really kind of shocked by that. But when you go back, they do get some key stops every now and then. They do get some, interceptions.
The Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, but you got to realize when you're watching the Vols, we're kind of just watching defense like most of the game, and they're out there a lot. So I think that has something to do with it as well, because I think Heupel just says, hey, we're just going to go out and outscore everybody. If we win by 1 point, who cares, right? I mean, we win by 1. So I think that's part of it as well.
Matt, hearing what he just said, you can't get caught up in the stats, can you? It's the final result. That's all that matters. But coaches still, it does bother them. And that's why teams more and more go for it on 4th down, because they're going, my defense is gassed because most of our scoring drives are 2 minutes or less.
You look at the last 10 to 15 years in football, right? One of the trends, a lot of defensive coordinators, hey, 7 is greater than 3. If you go 75 yards in the drive, you eat up 6-7 minutes, and I hold you to a chip shot field goal, but my offense has the ability to score in the red zone, I'm better than you. And I think it's great comparisons in 2019. Now, I think this week's really important for the Vols to find a way to win on the road. Yeah. If they do that, it sets up some colossal matchups. But I even go back to the first game on the road against Pitt. They faced adversity in that football game.
Right.
And they came back and they won a road game. Now, Pitt's obviously shown they're not as good as the first week, recent company with the Georgia Tech loss. But I just think that as long as your defense can force some turnovers, get off the field in crucial situations, and hold teams to 3s in certain situations, and you're getting 7s, and you usually end up on the right side of the column.
Yeah, even covered by a half point in that game.
Yeah, and it just doesn't, and I'm anxious when Jackie Sherrill, the coach, is going to be on with us in the next hour, and he is so sharp. I mean, the man, God, he knows football. Again, I'm anxious to hear, because he's out in Texas and he does a lot with Fox Sports TV covering Big 12 and all. but you talk to the coaches that have been in the Big 12 and in the SEC or from the SEC, they go to the Big 12. It doesn't take them long to figure out you don't have the quality of depth and talent on the front sevens out there that you do in the SEC and a few other schools around the country like Ohio State. But you've got to have great edge rushers because people pass so much. And I think the game is changing a lot. And the coaches that have not adapted and that are hard-headed and bullheaded, they're just getting left by the wayside. I mean, you look at some of the woeful offenses that there are in the Southeastern Conference. Look again. It's on a stone tablet. What you see, what you see out of say Auburn, their offense. How can you not have an offense better than that? These are Division I players. We talk about teams don't have talent. There's only about 3,300 kids in America out of 330 million. I think I broke that down. You're talking about a special group of athletes. Is that 1/1000% or something like that? That play at this level. And if you can't go out and get 25 kids a year and evaluate talent and find out the ones that can or can't play, and that's on the staff because everybody has talented players. You look at the elite programs, guys, it's where they have player development. I mean, look, you can let me just throw a comparison. You go to Des Moines, where would you be more excited to be if someone said, I'm going to pick you up in my Falcon 900 $45 million jet that seats 21. I'm going to pick you up and take you to go to Des Moines to the best restaurant or New Orleans. I mean, that's food development. We're going to cook the same food, steak, chicken, and fish. I mean, I just see so little player development at some schools. Then I look at Alabama. Look how they develop talent. And look what LSU under Brian Kelly is going to do. Look at Arkansas. Look at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. And look at Mississippi State with Mike Leach in year 3. How much better are they now?
Boy, no kidding.
Yeah, look at Texas A&M. All that
best
great
talent money can buy.
I had to throw that in. Sorry.
Yep. They deserve a shot.
Hey, Rob, I think we lost you.
Yeah, Rob, we can't hear you.
Yeah, he's well, no, you're exactly right. A&M absolutely should be lauded for that type of a talent. And not being able to get more out of them in the years that Jimbo has been there, it was year 5. Whew.
Right.
I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be the coach that had that type of talent and that type of production. And look, we had it here at LSU for a lot of years. Les Miles right. Had all sorts of great talent come in off recruiting and couldn't do anything with it.
Yep. I think, I'm looking. Looks like he's still on mute. I was texting to let him know.
The line from Animal House comes into play. Forget it. He's on a roll.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Look, he's rolling with it right now.
Hey, the inmates are now in charge of the asylum.
That's right.
He must have accidentally hit his mute button.
I think when I said something about Texas A&M, he got all excited. About
that's right. Now, are you coming down for the game?
I'm not. I was going to come down, and I've just got too many things going on. I'm out of town right now, but I am going down to Athens for the Georgia game. My daughter's down there, so I'm
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we got tons of Big Orange down here. I got in town last night, drove in from Atlanta, and there is Big Orange all around. And you're exactly right. They're happy to be back. I joked with a guy yesterday. I was telling him, I said, y'all are like us in the 2000 when Saban got here. And we had made our way out of the desert with Donardo and Curly Hallman losing back-to-back games to Vanderbilt. It was just nice to be back in consideration.
Yeah. I mean, we've been in the desert for so long that I don't get excited about a lot of it. I'm excited because we've been winning, but again, I don't know if we're that good at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, we've had some decent wins, but you don't know until you get into this, really hard SEC, grinder that we have. I mean, if we win this week, we got Alabama at home, and then we've got a couple of weeks. Well, we got some other teams in between. We got to go to Georgia. So, it's a grind. I mean, it's a grind. So yeah. It's been fun so far. I'll take it after 15 years, but I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah, and Matt, you look around outside the SEC, the other big Power 5 conferences. Then I look at the Sun Belt. I tell you what's happening is the Sun Belt. They're picking up a lot of these kids that are going to the SEC schools, and it's real easy to say, you know what, the footprint of the Sun Belt is very similar to the footprint of the SEC, and it's not an accident that Appalachian State, the boys from Boone, went to College Station. Again, I didn't buy into the preseason hype about A&M. I knew they had a great recruiting class, the greatest recruiting class ever, but I didn't buy into that hype that they were going to just run through, college football and, have no issues at all. But they went out there with one player on their roster who was a 4-star. That's it. Nothing above the 1 4-star. A&M had 56 4-stars and 5-stars on their roster, and App State just ran the ball down their throat, guys. I mean, this is getting to. I mean, and I'll say this, Mark, you're in business. Frank, you're in business. Matt, you're in business. I'm in business. No one in their right mind. We all wish people did this, but nobody pays their employees before the paperwork is signed and the deal is done and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, do they? This is the insanity that is – I mean, Mel Tucker, man, boy, has he really put it to Michigan State. That is a – there you go. that horn there. Somebody just honked and said they agree.
The beer trucks have arrived down here at the restaurant. Hey, Big Ball Nation's in. They're bringing a big truck.
Hey, they're running. It looks like they're running late this morning at this point.
That's right. Yeah.
It comes again. Hey, I'll tell you something. Taking the trains around Europe and stuff, I remember in college, and I've been back since then. Anywhere you are in Die Vaterland, Germany, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, they're drinking out of tall glasses at room temperature, man. They wake up in the morning, have a brat for breakfast, kraut for lunch, brat, krauts, and schnitzel for dinner, and big beers. But the one thing about the Hofbrauhaus in Munich, 3,000 people in there and big, long picnic tables, as much drinking as there is going on in there, and they sell a lot of pretzels too, you'll never see a fight in there. They just, I guess it's kind of the way they're raised over there. They have fun. But Frank, you all this talk we're having, that you see where we're going about Keyshawn Boutte. It's not gang up on Keyshawn Boutte Day. It's these players that think they can come out and just say, I'm going to wind it up. What those kids did at SMU, if I'm Rhett Lashley, I show them the door, pack their bags, and say your name will never be spoken again. It was like when the guy was de-pledged when you were in a pledgeship in the fraternity. His name could never again be brought up on fraternity grounds. Yeah.
Well, and look at counsel at Auburn, giving the bulletin board material to the dogs. Sometimes, man, you got to have, you got to think things through before you open your mouth. I mean, that is the last team you want to stir up, after their game against Missouri and Kent State. You want a sleeping giant just to come in and stumble in. I couldn't believe he did that. So, yeah, you're right. Some of these kids need to be coached up, and, they have to know that there's, consequences for some of their words and some of their actions.
Yeah, no, and that is it. I'm just saying, if I'm a coach, I'm not going to put up with it. Matt, look, everybody, we're going to come right back after this quick break. We got to take a quick break for about a minute on Sidelines, another hour to go. Jackie Sherrill will be joining us in hour number 2. Be interesting to get his thoughts on what is going on, but we will be back to talk and find out after this quick 1-minute break.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BBG for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Sidelines on this Friday, man. Going into week 6 of the college football season, having a lively discussion when you can hear us. I will say this. A lot of games this weekend, and I'm old enough to remember when the Auburn-Georgia game was a big deal. That's coming up tomorrow. But, yeah, Georgia and Alabama right now are having success on an unprecedented level. They've had a lot of success before. Prior to what Kirby's doing at Georgia, their greatest run I can ever remember was 1980 to 83 at Georgia. They were 43-4-1. They won 3 consecutive SEC championships and a national championship with a couple of second-place finishes. But what they're doing now at Georgia makes that look very pedestrian. Would y'all agree?
Correct. Yes. I mean, they were here at the Superdome every Sugar Bowl, it seemed like, for that 3 or 4 year period. Again, winning the national championship in 1980. And I'm good buddies with Buck Bellew. And for so long, that was the money that they had in the bank. That was the entire bank account for 40 years. And when Kirby came, you could just see that he was going to build that type of a program that he watched under Nick Saban at Alabama. I mean, you could just tell it was going to happen, and it came to fruition. Could have happened in 2017 if not for horrible defense on a 2nd and 24. What Kirby has built and is building is a monster in the East, and it's going to take a resurgent Tennessee or a resurgent Florida to combat that. If not, it's going to be an arms race with one side. He's going to run away and get a lot of those recruits. For those of us in the West that hope to get to Atlanta to play them, we need other teams in the East to give him some problems, again, especially on the recruiting trail. And that's where I see the resurgence of Tennessee and what Billy Napier might do at Florida. And again, Bob Stoops, Kentucky's Kentucky, let's face it. I think he's done a great job there, but Kentucky will always be Kentucky. So that's the interesting thing about Georgia is how unfettered is their growth of their program. And right now, Kirby's got them on all cylinders.
Yeah, he does. And look, Matt, I know you've got to get going, and Mark, but both of y'all, this has been a great discussion about what is happening in college football. And I just think you're right. Kentucky has Mark Stoops topped out at Kentucky. I mean, we're going to find out. I'll say this. this year he's got to get the win over Tennessee or Georgia. Now they did 2 years ago. They went into Knoxville and won like 34-7 or something like that.
I think it was like 100-3 or something.
Yeah, it was not a pretty sight. But bottom line is that's why they play the games. And when people always say it, like when you have technical issues on a show, and we have those. If you're going through hell, keep going. So
gotta go to Audible.
Hang with us, everybody. Omaha, 42-15. But I'm really excited about the future of college football. And I think what you're seeing is the fans are saying, you got NIL and transfer portal, but I think that stuff's on a short leash. And I'm always shocked when people tell me stuff like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm just like, yeah, there is. The people with the money are the ones that make the rules. That's follow the terms of endearment in life. They follow the money trail. And
I think the senator that you and I had the photo op with last weekend might have something to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Tuberville, he's getting out there on the mall up in Washington, and he goes out there and coach on the street. I love it when he does it. Just walks up there because, he's Joe Sixpack, man. He's from Camden, Arkansas, and he doesn't feel like he's above anybody being a senator. It's a lot of fun to watch him interact with people. You saw him the other day. Mark, you and Matt, you should have seen this. Coach Senator Tuberville, people just gravitate toward him. I mean, he's been there. He's experienced the highest highs and the lowest lows. I mean, mostly highest highs. And now he's a United States senator. But I think we're going to, people, it's always darkest before dawn. I always say this because it's true. The fans own college football, not 18-year-old kids that are being promised $6 or $8 million of NIL. Let's see how much of that stuff comes to fruition. Okay, I just don't think we're going to see that dominate and be everything in college football, basketball, baseball, you whatever it is. I think there are a few guys that are getting NIL, but what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing some post-mortem where there's investigation by some true grit journalists into these kids that are, quote, wrapping it up for the year, 4 games in because things aren't going their way. They're having a pout fit and NIL. And if they are getting NIL, I would think contractually they're no longer getting it. You see, like we all know, Mark, Matt, Frank, and what I do, you eat what you kill. If you stop hunting, you stop eating. Mm-hmm. You're out of a job. I mean, a great white shark might eat 3 or 4 seal pups a day if that's what it takes, but they're always hungry. Audrey says I'm like a great white shark. I am. I get hangry. I mean, I got to have something. I'm not, I have a little bit of coffee, but coffee makes me nervous. That's what Carl said. And he's right. It does. It makes you get wound up. But I do think the future of college football is bright. The fans are coming back in huge numbers. And again, we all talk about 40, 50 years ago, the glory days. Man, there's so many more people at college football games now than there were back then. It's not even funny. Every stadium in college football in this country has been expanded at least 2 or 3. Okay? That's what's going on in college football. I think we have a great future in this game. Matt, look, we're going to get you back on here next week. Appreciate you taking time. I will talk to you later today. Mark, if you can stay with us. I know Matt's got to get going. I didn't mean to keep everybody so long, but I just honestly think the future of college football is bright. No matter what your team's doing, pull for the brand. Whatever you think about the coaches, it's hard, but guys, how do you do it? You got to put them over on the side if you don't agree, but don't pull against the kids on the team, at least the ones that are still trying versus now the ones that are, quote, winding it down because things aren't going their way, their names shall not be spoken. Mm-hmm. Mark? You agree? Would you have an employee working for you that said, Mark, I'm going to just wrap it up. Things aren't going my way. I mean, would you keep them on?
I think people get disgruntled both, in sports and also, in business. But I think as a good leader, you have to find, how to motivate those people to be their best. But they also have to realize that, look, we're the ones that set the fences. And I had a mentor tell me, he goes, look, I set the fences and you got to play between those lines. And it's basically like football. You got to, play between the lines. But you want to hire thoroughbreds, you want to bring them in, you want to let them run, but they also have to, they have to work with the team. They have to respect authority. And I think nowadays it's a little different with some of these kids because if they're not on the field and they're not winning, then or starting, they feel like, they're going to have to, go somewhere else, and they hit the transfer portal. But look, I mean, you could be a rock star, the best on your team, but when you get to Tennessee or LSU or Alabama, you may not be the best on the team. And I think that's a reality check for a lot of people. But, do I get rid of people that don't want to work? If they're a distraction and they continue to be that way, you want to try to get them back. But if you can't, then it may be time for them to move on. But unfortunately, I don't know. I think a lot of people are moving on, and they're, I think it's not necessarily teaching people that if you don't get your way, especially at 18, that you have to stay and grit it out. You just jump in the portal and try to go find the next place. So I don't know. I'm a little conflicted by it. I understand it, but I think sometimes kids need to really just buckle down and work hard.
Yeah,
life lesson.
Yeah, Matt, how many times have you had that conversation with student athletes that are struggling? At Rhodes is not easy. I mean, but they bat about 1,000 when it comes to their pre-med students getting into medical school. And I'm talking the top medical schools in the country. How many times do those guys and girls come in there and say, Coach, I can't take it anymore. I want to quit. What are those conversations like?
Well, for us, it usually happens. We're a little unique because we're non-scholarship and very selective institution. It usually happens the first semester. It's the toughest transition semester for a student. When I coached basketball, young people, the one advantage I thought we had was we're not showing in August 2-a-days, right? You get a chance to acclimate as a student, and then we practice in October, and we can have those conversations when you're going through your first midterms. The one last thing I want to say, too, on the portal, I've been hearing some in the comments. There are some really good portal stories. One of the ones that I've seen this year, it's kind of obscure, but if you go to Kansas State and you see what Adrian Martinez has done at quarterback after – I watched a young man play at Nebraska for several years under Scott Frost and a struggling offense.
Good point. Yeah,
and with Deuce Vaughn there, and Mark, to your point, sometimes we need to change in our job too. And I think that's what Adrian Martinez did. He took advantage of the system. I think he already had his degree. He goes to play at K-State. Now he's got videotape. If he wants to go to the league, maybe he could be a quarterback someday in the league.
I agree.
So the portal, when used properly, is a beautiful thing. And I think what the advantage that some of these SEC schools do, like Georgia and Alabama, they have such great recruiting classes year after year after year. When they need to address a need, they can go to the portal. And the last thing, guys, if you don't have a QB1, I don't care how good you recruit. I don't care how good your team is. If you don't have someone like Hooker back there, it makes it a lot difficult on Saturdays. I'm just telling you.
I agree.
Yeah, that quarterback by committee doesn't work at all. And how many times have you heard wily old coaches who are, been around a while, and people, he's just an old fart. No, he isn't. He's right. If you got two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. Nobody has two wives except maybe in some parts of the country, but not me. I mean, it's you can't do that.
In Utah, they do that. They do that in Utah.
Parts of Utah, okay, and but not anymore. They're not supposed to. But I'm just saying, and I'm going to throw it back down there to New Orleans. Frank, on beignet number 23, 23rd. Frank, you're going to explode like Augustus Gloop and Willie walk in the top.
Are you eating at a beignet? Are you eating a beignet for every time you hear Rocky Top?
Yeah. I tell you what, I'd have popped by now if that was the case. I'm just hoping not to have that problem tomorrow. That's it. And Rob, if 23 was the over and under on beignets, bet the over.
Yeah, I mean, God, they are really good. But let's look around now. Kind of a wild day today. I want to throw this one up. You talk about Auburn or any team, giving people bulletin board material. Again, with Georgia, Frank, you took the right angle, the right approach. They're already furious about the last two games against Kent State and just barely squeaking out with a win on the road at Missouri. But jokingly, Georgia and Alabama, do they want to keep the game against Auburn close? So Auburn says, well, you know what? We played Georgia close. Let's keep old Harsin. I think that's too late. I mean, but still, I'm with Frank Broyles. Great quote. He's told some friends of mine up at Arkansas years ago. He said, if you've made the wrong hire and you know it, you know what? Just cut your losses now, because it'll cost you more long term than it will the short term, to get rid of him. And I who knows? Auburn could go up there and play Georgia off their feet tomorrow. But if you look at the trend and the poor offense, Matt, you make a case for it, and I'm gonna throw it to each of you. How do you go and get the win if you're Auburn, Matt, up at Georgia tomorrow? Okay. Frank,
Matt,
how would you do it?
are you coming to me? Well, I think you do it like LSU went into Auburn last week, the exact same model. You got to get turnovers. You've got to be able to make it a short field. You've got to be able to force the turnovers. Now, again, the drop muff punt was just an error. I think Harsin didn't help himself when he tried to throw that halfback pass that we picked off. That was not smart. But yeah, you've got to go in with a puncher's shot. But the last thing you want to do is, again, rile them up before you go in there, because Georgia does have the better team, and when you're going up against the better team and you're on the road, you got to be advantageous, and that's what Auburn's going to have to do. I think they're going to have to gamble on defense. They're going to have to bring blitz packages. They're going to have to go after Georgia's offense, and when they get opportunities, they can't have field goals. They got to score touchdowns. Georgia's going to score in the mid to upper 30s. So for Auburn to have a shot, they got to score as well. Look, it's insane to think that the Auburn-Georgia rivalry has a 30-point favorite in this. I mean, that's crazy to me. Yeah. And I think Auburn's going to play them close for a while. I think the cream will rise to the top, but it just depends on what Auburn does with the opportunities that they either force or presented with.
Yeah, Mark, we had a couple of minutes before we go to the break. I just say to myself, when as an Auburn alum, I always believe we're going to win every game, but I also look at trends. I'm realistic in that respect. Realistic is a term I use loosely, but Georgia's just dominating. I mean, and now they didn't dominate Missouri. But Matt Dean was right. After 5 games, 4 or 5 weeks, you get a lot of tape on people. So you're able to see what they're doing on offense, defense. Don't forget about special teams, but obviously the majority of the focus is on those other two. And I want to get into this when we come back from the break. But, you look in this millennium, since 2000, Georgia leads the series 16-7 against Auburn. From 1950 to 1999, Auburn won the series in every one of those decades. And you said to yourself, how did it get to this? Well, I'll tell you when it did. When Georgia hired Mark Richt away from Florida State in 2001, that's when everything changed in that series. Auburn had a 7 or 8 game lead about 15 years ago. Now, Georgia, they're just, again, they're running away with it. And you say, well, why is that? Well, Auburn's not winning those key recruiting battles over in the state of Georgia. So we're going to talk about, hey, that's an interesting series. We got a lot of other games in the SEC we're going to hit, but stay with us. We'll be back after this quick 1-minute break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back with Frank Duffy down in New Orleans, Mark Hamm up in Knoxville. And you get back to, we're talking about that Auburn-Georgia series in this millennium. 16-7, Georgia just absolutely dominating the series. And, you know, you say, how does that happen? Well, I mean, Auburn's recruiting, or lack of, in the state of Georgia is not helping, but Kirby has just pinned it down to where he's getting whoever he wants. It's never been easy, but Auburn over the years has gotten a lot of great players out of the state of Georgia. You know, Frank is an LSU fan. You get whoever you want for the most part, although Nick Saban in Alabama do come in there and get a lot of players, but that's that 5 years he had at LSU. Mark, with Tennessee, the Vols pretty much get who they want in the state of Tennessee. And Middle Tennessee, Metro Nashville, is really beginning to produce a lot of great players. So I say right now, recruiting, Georgia's the fourth most talent-rich state in America. Mark, make a real quick case, and then we're going to look at this, Ole Miss Vandy. That's not much of a game, but I also want to talk about Arkansas at Mississippi State. But how does Auburn go between the hedges? Can they pull off a win? Can you even see it after 20 cold beers?
Was that to me or to Frank?
to you, to both of you, because both of you were capable.
Because are you asking if Auburn gets a win?
Yeah. How can they do it? I mean, even after 20 cold beers, could you see it happening?
No.
I don't think there's enough Jack Daniels up there in the distillery to come up with this one.
I mean, they might. I think, Georgia's shown a little weakness with Kent State, a little weakness with Missouri, and maybe they're just getting complacent. I mean, look, they've got talent all over the field. I mean, they're dominant. But I have said, I made this case early before the season, and it hasn't really come to fruition, but you're seeing a little bit of it. As I said, look, they have 5 stars and 4 stars all over the field on defense, but they did lose a lot of their defense last year to the NFL. So you got some kids that are extremely talented, but they haven't played a whole lot. So, if a good team comes along and can score some points, is that maybe their only weakness. Stetson Bennett is playing, lights out. And I wouldn't say that's even a weakness. It's just that they've been a little more, not vulnerable. But you saw it in Missouri. Missouri's able to run it on them. Missouri ran it up the gut. Missouri threw it around. I don't know what happened in the fourth quarter. But, I don't know. I don't know if they're just bored or maybe they're beginning to see that some of those younger players don't have that game experience, hard-ridden game experience on the road they have to win some.
Mark, you know that Kirby had their attention in practice this week for sure.
Of course. Yeah.
And tell you, I will say this. I was sitting next to Doug Dean, my buddy from Auburn, who was kind of let me use his other seat. I was in Jordan-Hare for the game with LSU, and I will tell you, those Auburn kids are playing for Brian Harsin. They are playing hard out there. So I think it's going to take, turnover or two, something strange happening, having them have belief for them to win, between the hedges. It's going to be a tall order, though, because at the end of the day, not only has Georgia got incredible skilled players, they're really getting good line play. And just like Alabama in the West, they're 2 and 3 deep. That's the crazy thing. It's not the starters that are that much better. It's the fact that Kirby is recruiting that second and third string as deep as they are.
absolutely agree with you. You because those guys want to play too, and that's whenever you hear people say, "Oh, you're running up the score," no, that's your fault for not being able to stop them. That's also not fair to the guys that are second and third team that are trying to become first team players. And that when the great programs, you look at Alabama and Georgia, who are dominating college football right now, and their rosters, if you look at the blue chip index, that 4-year barometer of 4 and 5 star players that you sign, they're both in the 81 to 84% ranking. That's 1 and 2 in the country, yet they don't have mass numbers of players hitting the transfer portal. And if you have guys that are, cancerous, just, malcontents, they're not around very long. I mean,
the majority of Georgia's defense would be starting on other SEC teams right now. And the crazy part about that is that's including what they just lost to the NFL this past year.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And we didn't have at LSU in 2019. We didn't have that next layer coming up like Kirby has here after a national championship. I am absolutely blown away how well, Georgia's defense has played to this point. The offense has stumbled against Kent State and Missouri a bit, but that defense is just as good.
Yeah, and you have to think, too, about this. Georgia and Alabama both, they play for the national championship against one another last year. They faced each other in the SEC championship and again for the college football playoff national championship. And both teams, after the national championship, are sitting there right now at 1 and 2. They're just flip-flopping depending on what the pollsters think about their performance on any given Saturday. And that's just – and you look around at the recruits that they're getting at Alabama and Georgia, Auburn's not getting any of them. I mean, the only players that Auburn's getting right now, it seems like, are the ones that Nick Saban processes out in recruiting. And that's got to change. That should change. Auburn's got to get a staff in there that knows how to recruit Georgia.
Well, shame on Harsin for not developing those relationships with all those Alabama high school coaches.
Yep,
that was his biggest mistake coming in, was thinking he was going to take the Dan Mullen approach and not having those relationships.
Yeah, you just cannot do it. All right, let's switch gears. I want to talk about this Arkansas-Mississippi State matchup. 2 years ago, Frank, when Mississippi State went down there in the first game and just really laid the wood to LSU, that was the canary in the coal mine. Yeah, that LSU and Coach O had checked out after that 2019 national championship season. Barry Odom went in there and they shut them down 21-14 in Starkville. Let's now fast forward 2 years, and I'll start with you, Mark. I'm going to throw it to you first, then to Frank. Mark, does Arkansas have what it takes? They've lost 2 straight, and they're kicking themselves, I'm sure, for losing to Texas A&M. Do they have what it takes to go on the road in Starkville against this Mike Leach team that looks really good with a Zach Arnett coached defense and a decent running game, and Will Rogers, who's breaking records every other week?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great matchup, to be honest with you, because they both seem I think Arkansas's expectations were to be a little bit higher, and I think they're great. They're both great teams. But I watched Arkansas last week, and KJ Jefferson is a specimen, but I think they're not really hitting all the expectations right now. They lose on a field goal, and they get beat. And then Mississippi State seems to be beating people. So I don't know. I think that's kind of a head-to-head right there that I think could go either way. I could see Mississippi State winning at home, but I don't know if Arkansas is really meeting all the expectations they had early in the year. I don't know. I think Mississippi State can get them.
Yeah, Frank, your thoughts on it, because Arkansas, again, they should be 4-1. They weren't going to beat Alabama no matter what. Yeah.
And Mark, I think. Well, I was just going to say, Mark.
Frank, you're breaking up a little bit there. Yeah, try it again.
And I think, Mark, I think last week's game. In fact, Rob and I were at the Sigma Nu House I met your son, and we were watching the Arkansas Alabama game at the Sigma Newhouse on Auburn's campus. And I think last week, though I think Alabama would have still beat them, I think that Arkansas performance was one of the examples of don't let the loss from the week before cause you another loss the next week. I think that Texas A&M game was a lot on their mind. I'm calling for an Arkansas upset this week. And look, I saw how well Mississippi State played. I had them big last week against Texas A&M. Doug and I had that one cold. In fact, we couldn't get our bets in quick enough to get that. I mean, we love giving up the points in that game. But I will tell you, Arkansas and Sam Pittman, though they're dejected by that performance against Texas A&M, that is still a very powerful, strong football team. And Mississippi State does have the tendency to kind of be one of those roller coaster teams. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'm taking Arkansas plus the points, but I wouldn't be shocked with an outright upset by Arkansas over the bully this weekend.
And to both of y'all, Arkansas right now, they're into a dangerous part of their schedule.
Yes,
next week they go on the road to Provo, Utah, to play BYU, and that will not be an easy game. Then they've got to play at Auburn. I mean, I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know what to say, but Arkansas, Auburn's won 8 of the last 9 against Arkansas. They've won 6 in a row against Arkansas and 6 in a row against Ole Miss. But those are going to be – this is a different situation this year. But I agree with you. I think Arkansas can go on the road and get the win, but how healthy is KJ Jefferson? That's the thing that concerns me. If he's not ready to go, Mississippi State's going to – I think Mississippi State's going to get the win. I want to see KJ Jefferson, but he runs the ball so much. He puts himself out there, and I think that's caught up with him, okay? And Ole Miss Vanderbilt, there's not really a lot to talk about. Ole Miss should win that game, pick the score, kind of like against Georgia Tech. But I'll say this, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, this year they're running the ball really well. Jackson Dart is developing a really good quarterback. Okay? And, folks, we're going to reschedule Coach Jackie Sherrill for next week. He had some phone issues where he is. So we'll get Coach Sherrill back on next week. And I was really looking forward to it. But I'm glad you guys.
Love me some Coach Sherrill, man. I love talking to him. He's great.
Yeah, we'll get him on next week. And sometimes phone issues, guests can't call in. And I know he's out in Texas. He may be just in a bad cell area. I don't know who his carrier is, but sometimes that happens. Trust me, I know. But, guys, I'll start with you, Mark. Lane Kiffin, the guy can flat out coach. And people say, well, what has he done? Well, he won 10 games in 2 or 3 years as a head coach at Florida Atlantic. When he left Tennessee after that 1 year going 7-6, he won 10, 8, and then 7 games. They fired him in the 4th year when he got off to a 3-2 start. He goes to the Saban Rehab Center, and what does he do? He brings Alabama into the 21st century with offense. Nick Saban was not a big fan of these hurry-up offenses, but he does it.
He left the bunk warm for Sarkisian.
Yeah, 14, 15, and 16. 3 different quarterbacks. They win the SEC 3 straight years, go to the college football playoff 3 straight years, and play for the national championship twice and get 1 win and 1 loss. I mean, the people that criticize Kiffin, I understand Tennessee was mad when he left after 1 year, but what he's building at Ole Miss, he's building a solid foundation to the point where he's pretty mad about fans not showing up or leaving the game early to go into the Grove. And I don't blame him. It doesn't look good on TV, and it doesn't look good to recruits.
Change your culture.
Yeah. I think, look, when Kiffin was at Tennessee, he was way too young. I mean, he got into coaching at a pretty young age, and he was immature, and he'll even admit that. I think if there was one decision he made, he looks back on it, he really wishes he had not left Tennessee. I mean, where would he like to be today? I mean, you know, when he comes into Tennessee and things are thrown at him, it's not that he's kind of pissed off about it. It's like he loves that passion. I mean, the fans didn't leave that game. The fans didn't leave the game after we beat Florida last week. As a matter of fact, we were all in the stands for another 15 minutes. So I think, you know, he's got a different personality, right? I mean, he's got a swagger about him, you know, and he makes little, you know, comments, and he gets on Twitter and he kind of jabs people in kind of a, you know, fun way. And I think a lot of people don't understand that because he's just kind of a different breed. I mean, he's a little different. He kind of likes to talk smack a little bit. So it really riles up the opposing, you know, teams. And I can tell you, you know, we couldn't wait for him to get to Knoxville. But, you know, look, if Heupel ever left and Kiffin continues to do things, and even though he left us, you know, and he ever decided to come back, yeah, we probably would take him because he is a good coach and he has an offense that we like. And I think he's grown up a lot, but he's the kind of guy that he kind of brings it on himself a little bit because he kind of makes these little snide comments with he has a little smirk on his face, you know. Everybody wants to hate him, but I'll tell you, if Ole Miss doesn't continue to fill those stands, let's just be honest. I mean, you know, if Saban ever retires, that's the job he wants. I mean, you know, he wants to be at Bama, he wants to be at Auburn, he wants to be somewhere where the fans are fanatics. And nothing against the Ole Miss guys. I mean, I grew up in Memphis, but, you know, most of those guys down there don't really like football. They just want to drink whiskey and wear their jackets to the Grove and wants to go and win some football games.
Those candelabras don't bring themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I think when I look at, I think Ole Miss has changed, but again, I've got Ole Miss friends. I've been down there to a lot of games over the years. They would say we're happy winning, you know, 7 games, 8 games.
Yeah.
Auburn and Alabama, y'all are like, you know, Spartans. I mean, any loss is catastrophic and all. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's the state of Alabama. It's the greatest college football state in America.
Kiffin matured in the right way for his coaching.
You're right.
But he's kept his Dennis the Menace charm of the tweets and digging Saban. And that goes a long way. I mean, I like Kiffin. And let me tell you something. Even though Ole Miss is running the ball, let me tell you, he didn't forget how to do a passing game. That's going to be laying in wait for somebody.
Yep.
You listening? That's going to be laying in wait for that game. And I'm telling you what, that running game, as strong as they've been, that's going to open up the passing game for that one game that they need to have those yardage.
Yeah, and as far as Ole Miss, I think he's trying to tell the Ole Miss people, look, you know, I've been at Bama, I've been at Tennessee, I've been at Southern Cal. Now, you can't say anything about Southern Cal crowds, but I think Lane Kiffin, what he's trying to say to Ole Miss is, man,
he's looking for a bigger stage. He's looking for a bigger stage than Oxford. He's going to be on a bigger stage before, and Ole Miss is going to be all pissed off and all butthurt that he left, but they've done it to themselves because he wants a bigger stage, and he's going to get a bigger stage.
Be on the plains, I'm telling you.
I don't know.
There
my Ole Miss friends tell me he's not leaving, and I'm going to tell you, Ole Miss can be a great job.
They can't afford to keep it. He's leaving.
Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to talk about that when we come back because the Ole Miss people say there's no way he's leaving, and he's trying to tell the people there, stay the full 60 if you expect us to play a full 60. After this, right now.
I watched him.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Back to the final segment here. Rob Browne from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. They deliver anywhere. And I'm hearing the Toyota Land Cruiser coming back in 2024. They're going back to the old box, the old school version. It's going to be made for going off-road instead of just, being a around the town grocery grabber. So it's going to be just like I got friends that have Land Cruisers. They've had them 25 and 30 plus years, but they're bringing it back. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Check them out. And also the great folks at Gateway Tire and Service Center. We go the distance for our customers and the communities where we do business. Support the Boy Scouts of America and Reforest, Mississippi. It does great value to your hunting land, your lake property, your medians in the city where you live, highways around you, adds value to the property and provides places where birds can nest, shade trees, whatever. But Reforest, Mississippi, Reforest hunting land, it brings value to it. All right, going back here to this thing with Ole Miss. I think the Ole Miss job, I go to Oxford a lot. The people down there, they love the Rebels. But what Lane Kiffin is doing, he even made a comment after the Kentucky win. I was watching SEC in 60 early this morning, getting ready to do the show and working out. And he made a comment, great to get the win and also great to see, some fans in the stands. He does, Mark, you're right. He makes kind of flippant remarks like that, but he's telegraphing and saying, all these things. So, I mean, if he were to leave, he would, that's what he probably would say is that, we got to have, but he's winning. They're supporting him. And Yancey Porter, I love him. He's like, Rob, it ain't going to happen. He's not going to leave. No, I mean, only Lane Kiffin knows, but I trust Yancey. And I just say, if Kiffin wants a bigger stage now, I mean, would the Auburn job be a better job than Ole Miss? I mean, I say that with a not tongue in cheek, but with a straight face, because whoever the coach is at Auburn right now, look, Mr. Rogers, Gus Malzahn, was able to, as an assistant coach in 2010, help Auburn win a national championship. Got him there again in 2013. And remember, in 2017, when Auburn had the rematch in Atlanta for the SEC championship, Auburn was number 2 in the college football playoff ranking. I don't understand why people said Auburn was number 4 or 5. That doesn't mean anything. The only rankings that matter at that time are the CFP rankings. They're number 2. Had they beaten Georgia for the SEC championship,
and if Carry-On Johnson wasn't hurt, they would have.
Yeah, and if Cameron Petway would have taken care of business on and off the field, he would have been able to play a lot that year instead of being in the coach's doghouse and give Carry-On a break. But Auburn in 2017 would have been right back in if they'd have been able to get that win in Atlanta in the college football playoff for the first time ever. So, I say that right now, though. You look at Brian Harsin and you go, how do you mess this up? And I talked to former Auburn coaches and different people and different ones, and their heads are spinning going, how did you drive this 4-wheel drive monster truck into the ditch and get stuck with all-terrain tires? It's a question, but I don't know where he's going. But I think they got something special at Ole Miss. They got a lot of money. They just completed a $2 billion fundraising campaign, $500 million of that for athletics. That's a lot of money. Again, the Mississippi State situation, they've got a lot of money. They don't have Texas A&M money, but who won that game the other day? 42-24. You can't play with your wallet. It might get you some players, but these Mississippi schools, man, they are lighting it up in college football right now. And so I just don't take your eye. I don't see Kiffin leaving Ole Miss. I would be shocked to see him leave Ole Miss. I do not think it's going to happen. Frank, Mark, if I'm wrong, I'll buy each of you a steamer pack of crystals for the next 12 months.
I think he's doing great there. I do. And I think he's going to win there. Let's just be honest. He's a winner wherever he goes. But I'm just telling you, I've seen him leave. for his dream job. And right now, what's his dream job? I think his dream job is Bama. That's what I think. I think when Nick Saban leaves, that's really what he wants. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he wants. But I don't know if Saban's ever going to leave. He just signed another 8-year contract. But I just don't think Ole Miss is the stage for him. I mean, he loves it. He's kind of that pretty boy. He enjoys it. Yeah. But let's be honest. When you can only put 60,000 in the stands there in Oxford, Mississippi, he'd rather be at Neyland with 100 or Auburn or, to be honest with you, his personality matches Florida more than anybody else because everybody hates Florida and they're kind of, buttholes most of the time anyway. So if Napier doesn't do well, I could see him doing real well at Florida. He was down in Florida already. So I think he's looking for a bigger stage. That's what I'm going with.
Frank?
I think he's searching for that Tommy Tuberville tunnel from Oxford to Auburn.
There we go.
Are you saying there's going to be another pine box leaving Oxford?
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think if he's offered, he goes. I really do.
Yeah.
I think if Auburn offers him, he's going to go. And
they're going to offer. Yeah, they're going to offer Texas A&M $95 million guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: Auburn's got to get an athletic director in soon, and I think maybe in the next week, maybe they're going to say something. I have not seen Auburn ever have an AD ever with a resume as impressive as John Hartwell, who's at Utah State now. And there are other people out there. That's great. But you know what? If they've been there for a long time, why were they not considered before? I like John Hartwell, but you better get this one right because you don't want to fall into that abyss of irrelevance. And Auburn, the Wall Street Journal, I put it out there yesterday. They rank Auburn. They got the brands, the value brands in the SEC. Texas at 1.108 million. Number 2 is Alabama at $1.008 billion. Number 3 is Georgia at $942 million. Number 4 is Oklahoma at $912 million. Number 5 is Auburn at $872 million. And that brand goes up with Bruce Pearl and Butch Thompson, high-profile coaches. But you've got to main thing is you got to recruit. If you're a salesman, and you're on the trading floor selling bonds, what's the number one thing that you've got to do every morning within 5 seconds of getting to your desk? Pick up that phone and call somebody with some money. That's your number one job as a football coach, is to recruit. You recruit in your sleep. Do y'all ever see anything or hear anything coming out of Kirby Smart or Nick Saban's mouth that's not has something to do with recruiting to their respective universities?
And totally calculated.
Oh, that comment about NIL to Jimbo was a shot over the bow by Saban to the Alabama donor base. Hey, exactly. I know we've asked you to do a lot. All right, everybody squeeze. Here's what's happening in college football in the SEC with NIL. All right, everybody, Mark, Frank, everybody, huddle up. Squeeze your hands as hard as you can. All right, do it. Squeeze them as hard as you can. All right, squeeze them a little harder. That's NIL, okay? That's what's going on, guys.
Right.
Mark, you're in private equity. Frank, you are too. 20 years, 45,000 homes sold. That did not happen because you got lucky.
Right.
Okay. I mean, Mark, give me your thoughts on it right now. You tell me. I've got a text here just a second ago from, okay, this is an interesting one. Alice Cooper from Valdosta just texted and said, convince me now that Lane Kiffin believes the Auburn job is a better job at this time than the Ole Miss job. That's from Alice Cooper in Valdosta, Georgia.
Well, you can't argue. You can't argue with Alice Cooper, right? I mean, he's a legend. I mean, so I wouldn't argue with Alice Cooper. I mean, he's successful. I think Ole Miss is a better job than Auburn right now because he's got it rolling at Ole Miss, right? He's recruiting, but if he goes to Auburn, it's going to take him a year or two, but he's going to get the same recruits. I mean, he'll get the folks. So it's a rebuild at Auburn, it sounds like. So I hate to say that, but unless you got the recruits and this guy just can't coach them up. But look at Heupel. He came in with nothing, and he's coached them up. So I think, I wouldn't say it's not a better job. I would just say in the state that it's in right now, he's top 10 right now with Ole Miss. So I do think he's looking for a bigger stage. I think he will take the bigger stage if it's the right one. I was just looking at his contract details. I don't know what the buyout is, but he's guaranteed $7 million in 23, 24, 25. So I don't know if that's a $21 million buyout or not. But right now these days, people want to win. They want to win now. So they roll that in and they go get him. I mean, if you can win at Ole Miss, let's just be honest. If you can win at Ole Miss, you can win anywhere. And if you can get kids from California,
with the cost of lumber right now. And at Yellowwood, they could pay him $10 million a year, and he could not turn that down.
Bingo. And here's the thing. If you get kids from USC, from California to come to Oxford, Mississippi, let's just be honest. It's not like it's the mecca of anything. I mean, it's Oxford. It's beautiful, but that's about it. He's getting kids to come down there, and I think the NIL is here to stay personally, and I think people are going to figure it out. Look, the NIL has been here for years. It's just legal now. So let's just be honest,
Correct. Yeah.
Who was it that said? Somebody said NIL stands for now it's legal. I'll tell you this: was it JG Wentworth? It's my money and I want it now. And I mean, so I think the Auburn is the 12th winningest program in the history of college football. Okay, that's in the SEC. You've got Alabama, you got Tennessee, you got Georgia, LSU, and then Auburn. And Georgia, LSU, and Auburn are real close together, but they're pulling away from Auburn. Auburn is slipping into what happened to Clemson after Danny Ford left. From 91 to 2011, that 20-year period, Clemson did not win the ACC championship. And
welcome to Knoxville.
Yeah. And that's what you've got to be so careful of. I'm going to tell you something, man. Again, we're going to get Coach Sherrill on next week. He had some phone issues this morning, as did we. But man, this has been a lot of fun.
But this is the only question I have about the Auburn job.
Yeah.
Is the state big enough for him and Saban, and does he have enough ego that he can share it with Saban, or can he beat Saban? Because he wants to be big kid on the block wherever he goes. And in Alabama, you got Auburn, you got Alabama, but he has just enough of that in him that he could poke and he could do it and could say, we're going to be better than Bama.
Yeah. Well, what Auburn
I think he has enough ego to take that on. I think he would relish that.
Yeah,
well, you need the Lion of Auburn back. I mean, we talked about what
he's the guy with the ego. That's what's different about him.
Yeah. You just got to get that mentality back that you will back down from no one. I mean, you think about.
If you notice when they talked about NIL money last year, I know Ole Miss has got some money, right? I don't think they have Auburn money, but he was kind of shocked at the NIL. And if that's here to stay, let's just be honest. If I know the Ole Miss people are committed to it. Obviously, some of the donors are, but I think they're probably more committed to it at Auburn. And if he has the money there to get more players, I mean, again, he may take that job.
Let me tell you what the Auburn job is right now. You know how when the tide pulls goes way out to sea, and you can see all the seashells and starfish and fish. It's real, and you can
smell all the sea fish and starfish.
The Auburn football coaching job is like a tsunami. It's the tide's pulling out, and there's this giant wave of people just chomping at the bits to get in there and get them going. I mean, you're seeing all over Twitter that director's cut, of a nighttime game at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I was down there last weekend. I mean, the people down there they are licking their chops but they want a leader. Yeah. Again, you've got to have a leader. And you look back at when Auburn pulled together, or any school, their pivotal moment, it's the right leadership. It starts with the board of trustees.
They're irritated about the hire after the Malzahn payoff. That's what they're upset about. They realized that there was a power struggle. Green, who was in charge, was going to show them, and that and now that's been taken care of. But if you guys get that AD shortly, before other job vacancies have to be filled, like a Wisconsin and those type. That's crucial, Rob. Y'all have to move quickly on this.
Yeah. I mean, we really do. And I'll tell you something. You've got to have leadership on your board of trustees, and you've got to do what Frank Broyles did at Arkansas. He got all the big families, the Stevens. I mean, Warren Stevens is worth over $7 billion.
Yeah.
You know, the Waltons, the Tysons, the Hunts, Reynolds Razorback Stadium. I mean, listen, that guy, Reynolds was into everything. I don't even think he's the aluminum foil guy. Okay. But, hey, remember, somebody had to wrap our sandwiches when we took them to school every day for lunch. But I think Auburn has got a watershed moment staring them in the face. No matter what happens tomorrow. I mean, you need leadership. You need leadership like what Bobby Louder provided. He is the Lion of Auburn. And I'm telling you, you need people that will not back down at whatever school it is. Nick Saban at Alabama, what he did when he came there, he said, look, I'll come. These are my conditions. I'm going to be the voice for Alabama football. And again, what they pay him, $10 million a year, is the drop in the bucket for what he's brought to the University of Alabama. Yeah, it's amazing. But look, guys, this, Frank and Mark, this has been incredible. I mean, you had Matt Dean earlier. Jimmy Hodge will be back with us next week. I got to tell you, this is a lot of fun bouncing around on this round table. A couple of things real quick. Go out and give with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Just give to give. And most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have Ken Capps live from the Texas State Fair in between funnel cakes, corn dogs, and turkey legs.
Corn dogs, I'm in.
That's right, corn dogs. Or Pronto Pups, Danny Andrini. Shout out to Danny. But most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Help people. And remember, if you want to help the people down in Florida, what Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South, told us this past Monday on Sidelines was support the American Red Cross. That's the best way to get money to the people in Florida and the Carolinas that suffered a lot of damage from Hurricane Ian. And I'm with Governor DeSantis. The people of Florida, we had a lot of listeners down there. They will pull together. It ain't going to take years. It's going to be quicker than that. And you know what? They got a positive attitude. It's all about leadership. But anyway,
they got the right guy leading.
That's right. And Buddy Martin will be on with us tomorrow, GatorBaitMedia.com. Kevin Skarbinski, going to have a lot of fun. Frank, join us. Mark, hopefully. We're going to have a lot of fun on that college football round table. But we are here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Check us out, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, Kicks 96.3, Lake Martin, Alexander City Radio, Alabama, and Sidelines.live. Until then, folks, have a great one. We are out of here.
Good time.